Hey, happy Tuesdays. One step forward from what many of us were doing in the 90s. Aye, aye. I clawed a little back further, went to Joy Division. Anyway, I'm thinking very seriously about doing a series of podcasts which are a bit like what Simon Sharma did for particular pieces of artwork. The Power of Art, it was called. And I want to do something like the story behind the song. I was like... And second, I'll get back to that. Secondly, it's totally hypocritical of me referring to myself as a tone anorak and ever saying but anything sounding good, because I tell you, when I review these YouTube videos, like, I shake my head and give myself douche chills. It is the most awful fucking thing. But I'm not going to rein myself in. And at some point you'll hear what it sounds like to actually be in front of my guitar and the rig. I'll make it happen. It's like, we've been there before. It's like, it's not the... I've been in recluse, you know, as much as a human being, to straighten myself up and get my shit together, you know. I had my midlife crisis like 10, 15 years ago, when I kind of reached the middle of what will be my actual life. And, you know, it was hard for me. It was like humbling. And, you know, I've been building myself back up since then. And, you know, being a musician is not all that I am, not by far, but it's the best of what I am. You know, when I've lived without it, and there have been times, believe it or not, that I've eradicated it from my life, deleted it, like, I don't know, like a horrible ex-girlfriend, like the way you delete that relationship and move on. I've done that with music. And it would break my heart to look at a guitar, you know, or pick it up. And, you know, there were some people that got to know me didn't even know. And there was a specific event that occurred. I was taken out of an induced coma. This is back in like 2015. And I hadn't played for some time, barely. And a Van Morrison track came on from the album Astral Weeks. It was the end of a shitty film. When I came out of an induced coma, they put a TV in front of me, and I think they were assessing my like mental faculties, because like they were coming back every sort of 20 minutes or half an hour and sort of asking me what I was watching and asking me to tell them about it. So I think they were checking my brain function actually. But it was a rom-com, and I remember it had like that Jake Gyllenhaal, that everybody always pronounces wrong, and the end, as this crappy rom-com rolled out, the outro music was like a Van Morrison track of Astral Weeks, and it touched me, and this like being of like, you know, barren rock and cold ice was melted, and the tears rolling down my eyes just with the sheer human power of music. And I resolved to like involve myself back in my music as like diligently as possible, and I have done, you know, pretty much from then. I've put every bit of energy and every bit of like money, every bit of resource into it. Those dear friends whose music I enjoyed making back in the way back, you know, I re-established relationships with them. I mean, I've got a drummer, and he's like one of the most fucking talented drummers I've ever met. And I've worked with fucking Brendan O'Neill, who was, you know, kicking air behind bloody Roy Gallagher's ass, you know, through the best years. And, you know, Shane Peterson being another, Graham Mitchell. Like, there have been some like really fucking good drummers, and Richard's up there with the best of them. He just doesn't realise it. He just doesn't know it, and he doesn't realise it, and he doesn't put fuck all into it really. He's surfing on it, you know, and like he's not living the healthiest life. And you know, I wish he'd go further in some respects. I wish he'd just become a fucking coke addict and fucking play for 8 hours a day. I'd rather that. But it's like, you know, it's like I want to see him expand the kit. I want to see him buy cymbals. I want to see him engaged, you know. And is it going to end up me that I just end up buying like a cymbal that I like, a good one, you know, like I'd like a little splash in my sound. It's like, so maybe to dictate the sounds that I want, I'm just going to buy some cymbals and see if it cheers him up and makes him re-engaged with his fucking drum kit. It doesn't even dust it, you know. I wrote it on it one jam. It was still there 3 years later. It's probably still there now. Anyway. Bless him. I really wish I could light a fire in him, and because like his skill is so obnoxiously fucking high, his ceiling for what you can get him to do. Like, I've put him through every style, and he plays things that I'm not particularly hot at. He's strong in areas that I'm weak at, which complements us well. So he sort of adds that bit, which is unusual in drummers, like the sort of this slightly performative element, and always something that's like pulling and quoting from something else, and it always adds to the tune. It adds the most important, it adds groove. Whatever he puts down, for the most part, adds to the groove, especially so when he understands the music. Sometimes, you know, if we're jamming something, it's like it's too quick or something, because there's been no fucking pre-discussion. But every time we've done something, it's been perfect. So I want to do a thing called like the story behind the song. This guitar used to be steady as a rock. It's moody as a motherfucker right now. All my guitars in storage, and they're in good, safe hands. They're in good storage, temperature's good, consistent, and they're fucking, every single one of them is like lost a minimum of 25%. They're all unstable, and it's like when they come and they're with me for a bit, like the PV Raptor was like it, and but this is it's just like lost it needs playing more, just needs to come back home. The Les Paul's totally lost its magic. From, you know, I played it in that ghost note that I've always been so proud of. Like, there's a note on that Les Paul, and it's there, and it plays, and it like goes into a ghost note, and it starts like winding in an upper harmonic like an ebow. I mean, it's on so many videos. The Silver Burst Les Paul, that cheap ass Les Paul, and it's lost it. It's lost it. It's like that's going on top of it, right? You know, it's a terrible shame. But it's a symptom of not being around. So the story behind the song, I was telling Chris the story of like the Lark ascending the other day about, you know, you got Vaughan Williams in the trenches of the First World War. And like, he's kind of shell shocked. There's been action between the trenches. He's lost friends. Like, he's fucked. 1,000-yard stare. And like, the sun rises. And as it does in that stretch of no man's land, you know, mutilated bodies, you know, boots with bits of foot hanging out, craters, ripped up, tangled up barbed wire, a vision of hell that's between the English Tommies and the Germans. Like, in that complete wasteland, that desolation, a lark ascends, and he's transfixed by it. Here is this thing. I wish I could put the music on now, because like, I would make myself cry. Like, in that moment of absolute war and horror, to the point of his numbing and utter shock and horror as a human being. He sees this lark ascend over no man's land, this battlefield, and he is transfixed by it. It occupies him completely. And he realises that in this complete hell on earth, you know, World War I, the trenches, you know, some things remain completely untouched and unbothered. You know, a slice of actual heaven, a little spark and element of heaven, like on the earth, in the middle of hell of war. And it really it takes root in him. And when he gets back home and he's going through that tremendous healing process that, you know, wasn't expressed in any kind of medical capacity, but, you know, the boys that come back from that war and went back to their families, broken up fucking men full of the most horrendous violence and fucking grief and shit you can imagine. And as he's processing that out, you know, he picks up his viola and he composes the Lark Ascending. And when you hear it, knowing that story, like, it is powerful, like really powerful, you know. And there's so many great stories like that. You know, I kind of looked around YouTube to see if there was anything like that. Is there anything? And, you know, in fairness, some people do that sort of thing. But it's not done in like a package. It's sort of like, I mean, Rick Beato will talk about things like this. But, well, I'm talking about it now. And I'm going to try and slip, I don't know whether to pack it properly. I'm just going to start slipping them into these sessions. But yeah, so I totally like recommend you to listen to the Lark Ascending, and like, I promise you, you know, it's like it won't just be like I'll tell you about like little Walter, you know, and his best friend, blues legend, dying in his arms in the back of a car from a fatal fucking stab wound, and like, it's his career, he's hitched his wagon, little Walter, you know. Like, has hitched his wagon to this legendary frontman who's come up with him. And his career depends on this guy. And he's his best friend. And he's got him in the back of the car, trying to get him to the fucking hospital. And he dies in his arms in the back of the car. Out on tour. And it's like, I suddenly picked up a lot of noise. Oh, well, it will now. Why did that suddenly pick up so much noise? Something happened there with the guitar, didn't it? Did you catch that? So, you know, and the song Last Night, that wonderful song, I don't know if I can... I don't think I can do it justice. Last night, I lost best friend I ever had. Last night, I lost the best friend I ever had. Gone, left me yeah, you know, but a great story behind that song, and I don't do it justice. Listen to the Little Walter version. But you know, I love like the old proper blues masters. You know, both like both of North and South, like of the Eastern Coast. It's like Mississippi Fred McDowell is my ultimate favourite. But you know, I love Little Walter. I love Slim Harpo. I do Slim Harpo tracks live sometimes. And I've done that track before, live, once before, twice before. Rarely, because I don't do it well. And like, in the hotel here, I feel very restricted with the volume, so I don't want to go too far. But yeah, I'd very much like to start talking about, you know, these stories behind tracks, and then getting you to go and listen to it. So please, go listen to The Lark Ascending with the story I told you in mind, and listen to Little Walt with the story I told you in mind. It just gives you a fucking totally different appreciation just when you know where the artist was coming from. I don't think it's important to know, sometimes, to know the reason behind some of the music. There's some music, I don't want to know the reason behind it, you know? It's like it doesn't matter, I don't think I care. But there are some where I already loved it, but then I loved it more when I understood it. And sometimes good art just needs a good curator, you know? But yeah, I kind of got to apologise for sort of like saying, oh, I'm a fucking anorak of tone, when like the noises I make are a bloody mess. Like, I've not yet fucking heard a sound really on this YouTube where I sounded good, and it's just, you know, hey, it's just the quality of my recording equipment, the camera gear, you know. So I would improve that. Love Johnny Hooker. See my ship standing on the waterfront. Anyway, so I'm probably going to go to a little location downstairs. Elgar's Cello Concerto in E minor, there's one. Anyway, I think that'll do. So, I'm sure there was something. Oh yeah, new guitar coming from the Mad Malco channel. Go and check out Mad Malco and watch all his videos. But look for the Axel Eldorado. Look up Axel Eldorado on Mad Malco's channel. It's on its way down. I know I'm a mug, but I love it.